What's up, everybody? Hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. Welcome to the Action Network podcast. I'm your host, Chris Raybon, and this is your NFL Week 14 betting preview. Today, we'll build our Sunday six pack of Against the Spread bets with the help of my colleague, the Prime Minister of Degenerate Nation, Stuckey. Stuck, what's going on?
What's going on, brother? Exhausted with this season. I I mean, I had the last week I had the Falcons who had plus 2.5, 97% post game win expectancy. Chargers can't even get a first down in the game. Cousins throws four picks, a pick
Yeah.
six, who misses the 30-yard field goal, and still it was decided because the Chargers got a 2-point conversion. If I just avoided that, that would have been nice. But yeah, it was my sixth six-pack loss on a 2-point conversion this year, 0-6. And then I had the Jets Seahawks under, which there should have been about 20 points in that game. It was pick six, kick return touchdown, muffed kick that led to a touchdown. I mean, no one could move the ball in that entire game, but it still went over. And then to top things off, I had the Browns plus 6.5 on Monday night,
Ah,
which
the
was,
full Jameis experience.
yeah, I mean
Double, triple Jameis, really.
the two pick sixes, a missed field goal again, and then a pick at the 2-yard line to end the game he's 600 yards and can't cover as a plus 6.5 dog. So yeah, it's been an exhausting year. But
ah,
you just
it feels like that,
plug
man.
on, and that, I mean, you just have to accept that happens sometimes. You're only betting 4 to 5 games on a Sunday. It's not like college where it's just sometimes the luck doesn't go your way for a couple weeks in a row. It's just exhausting. But still a lot of season left. It's time to just plug on and hope some of those bounces and 2-point conversions and field goals. If I see another missed 30-yard field goal on a team, I bet I'm going to lose my mind. But it's in the past. I've had way worse streaks of beats and runs in my life. So it's on to week 14.
Yeah, I need your energy high. So yeah, let's stick with it, and we'll get into the six pack in a sec. But we'll break down the Thursday night game first, and it's a good Thursday night game for not too often we get to say that, but we got the Packers at the Lions rematch in Detroit. Lions 3.5 point favorites. The total 51 and a half, 55% of the bets and 53% of the money on Detroit. So it's about even. The over is getting 81% of the money, 57% of the bets, according to our public bet taking data tracked in the Action app. So, Stuck, interested for your thoughts on this one. You have been betting against Detroit at times. I know you tend to be high in the Packers. Detroit dealing with some injuries here. Decker, I don't think he practiced all week. So that's a big injury. Of course, some other guys on defense already out. Linebacker, but they look like they're getting Davis and Mosley. The corner should be good to go. So how are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, Decker's important, I think, here, especially given how Skipper played in that Bears game. It was not great. And you have Van Ness, who's coming along for the Packers. Their pass rush is getting a little better.
Yannick
So I
Barre, I
think,
really like too. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so I think that Decker's status is important here. The biggest injuries I'm watching are along the Detroit defensive front. I mean, their linebacker, you've already lost Anzalone and Rodriguez and Barnes. I mean, their linebackers now are just have been destroyed by injuries. But now you might be missing. You already lost Hutchinson, and you've lost a couple other depth guys along the defensive line. But now you might be missing three more, and in Reeder, Pascal, Amozurike. So if all of those guys are out and you're decimated at linebacker, Jacobs 100% healthy too, though, is a question. I assume he is, but he's on the injury report as well. I
You
assume that
look
the
pretty
Packers
good. You
may
look
have,
pretty spry, I must say, in that Dolphins game. And I guess they are bad in the cold to close that loop from last week. But yeah, I mean, he was splitting out wide. So I think that's just like a BS, maintenance kind of listing on the injury report for him.
yeah. I mean, I would. Well, that Dolphins game, Tua played really well. I mean, he
Yeah.
was. The We'll get to the Dolphins later. I mean, the Dolphins, their tackling was bad, which I think was a factor in the cold. But they also lost 3 defensive backs in the first quarter, which didn't help things. Yeah. So the Packers. So I'm conflicted on the total because I do think that the Lions should be able to move the ball, especially if Decker plays. But does Jair play for the Packers? I think he's important if he's 100% healthy. And because I don't love the Packers cornerback group, and they haven't really been tested in like ideal conditions against like fully healthy offenses a lot this year. So I think his status matters as well. But I think regardless, the Lions will have success moving the ball. I think that the Packers will have success moving the ball, especially on the ground. But it could be, even if you go back to that first meeting, I know it was outdoors in weather, but there was like 7 or 8, just 9, 10 play drives. So it could be just really run heavy, and neither team is fast. So, and that's a high total to clear. You probably need like really strong red zone results to get there. So, but I'm pretty close to the number there. I wanted to back the Packers here. I would lean that way at over 3, but I think these injuries are priced in properly on the Detroit side. You got to remember, I know Love was banged up, but Detroit was a 3.5 point favorite in Green Bay outdoors. So, I think that it's properly accounted for. I would lean Green Bay's direction. If you're looking for action, I might tease it. I can't see this being a blowout either way. No, it's not the ideal teaser, but I think if you're just looking for action, it's small, couch change bet. LaFleur is very good as an underdog historically, 26-12. He's 17-2 in December. So one of the only quarterbacks to ever beat him was DeVito, believe it or not. So yeah, lots of injury uncertainty here. I think both teams are going to have success moving the ball. Probably comes down to red zone execution, but I think the line is close to right. If all these guys are out for the Lions, I might set it at 3. So would lean Packers at 3.5, but nothing strong. I think it's properly accounted for.
Yeah, I have it at about 3. I think the Packers are a very, very good team, and the Lions are obviously, like the Super Bowl favorite right now, but they're banged up, and the Packers are a team that can actually take advantage of it. They're the Bears kind of, I mean, they covered, but they're bumbling around, and the Lions really, I mean, they faced the Colts with Anthony Richardson, so they really haven't gotten tested too much lately as these injuries have started to mount. I think the Packers can change all that. I mean, they're rolling. Love can go downfield. He can test these corners. Jacobs, as you mentioned, can run on them. So yeah, I think this is, and it's a division game, second matchup, revenge spot for the Packers. So yeah, I'd lean Packers as well. All right, let's get into our Week 14 Sunday 6-pack. All right, went 3-3 last week in the 6-pack. For those who are new,
I can't provide any help every week.
It's all right, man. We stick with us. You're due. But for the new listeners, we do 2 points for each of our first 2. A point for our third and a point for our total, which we'll give out in the next segment. You get a point if you sweep all those. It's 46-28, so you're going to need a couple sweeps. Let's get going. Stuck for this week. I'll start it off, actually. I go first this week in our drafts. So for my first pick, the first overall of the Week 14 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Cleveland Browns plus 6.5 at the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this is just one of those spots where, I mean, the market is just in love with the Steelers now. They just blew out they put up a 40 piece on the Bengals, but who doesn't? And this is historically just a kind of a letdown spot for them. The only thing that worries me a little bit is, it is a revenge spot, but if you look at historically, Mike Tomlin coached teams 29, 49, and 1, 37% against the spread when favored by more than a field goal coming off a win. So I think this line is a little bit inflated because you saw Winston throw all these pick sixes on Monday night, and the Steelers had, kind of the game of the week on Sunday. So it's kind of top of mind for both of these teams. But Jameis Winston, this is where I want him as a dog by more than a field goal. He is 21-11 against the spread, 66%. And the Steelers defense is really good. They'll probably get Highsmith back this week. So I need a guy like Winston who could, be very efficient, even if he's going to make some mistakes, because everyone makes mistakes against the Steelers. But Winston, he's averaging 7.7 yards an attempt, 336 passing yards per game. So he can kind of get it into the same kind of shootout spot. And the good thing about this is you don't even need the Browns to win here. Like, there is some margin where they could backdoor it, or it could just be one of these close divisional games, and they could cover the 6.5. And remember, the Browns, even though they did, I think, get somewhat lucky in that game a couple weeks ago in the snow, they've shown they are able to beat Pittsburgh. Like, this is not an inept Browns team, even though they're sitting at 3-9. It's kind of like that Flacco team a little bit, just very volatile team. But if Winston doesn't completely go off the rails here, which that's no guarantee, but this is the spot where you want him, where you have that margin. And this is also a luck ranking game. So on the year, Pittsburgh's the second luckiest team in our luck rankings. Cleveland, the fifth most unlucky. So that's a gap of 26 spots. Unlucky teams that hit that threshold, 62.7% against the spread, 128-75 since 2018. And Russell Wilson, I mean, he's only failed to cover one time in his 6 starts. Divisional road dogs against a home favorite that's covered 4 more times in their last 6. The divisional road dog is 93, 60, and 6 over the last 2 decades against the spread. So a lot of trends pointing in Cleveland's direction. Cleveland already showed they can beat Pittsburgh, and you're getting some margin here with a kind of a somewhat of a classic letdown spot for the Steelers. So give me the Browns.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I mean, it's one of the reasons I backed the Browns last week against the Broncos. This probably will come down to how many pick sixes Jameis throws.
Right.
Maybe I won't bet it so you can cash it, because if I bet it, it'll throw 3.
Yeah.
I worry about the pressure that Pittsburgh will be able to get, because Jameis under pressure his numbers fall off a cliff. And the good thing about playing in the snow is that you can't really get pressure, because defensive ends and edge rushers can't really get the grip necessary to get after opposing quarterbacks. And if you get Highsmith back here, Brown's still very dicey left tackle situation. The rest of their offensive line is pretty healthy. And then I do worry about the Browns' ability or lack of ability to stop explosive passing plays. And one of the things that they also benefit from in that weather and the wind is that it is a big detriment to deep downfield passes, where Russell Wilson has really thrived in. But from a numbers perspective and a spot, even though, I mean, they are on a short week, Steelers do have revenge, which takes some of the luster off of it. I would lean that way. I would love to get a 7 here. Just comes down to Winston and how many pick sixes he throws. All right, for my first pick and the second overall of the week 14 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Los Angeles Rams +5 at home against the Buffalo Bills. Scary one, but just a classic spot I'll almost always bet. I mean, I make this closer to 3. The Bills have been great, but this reminds me of earlier in the year. Everyone's falling in love with the Bills. Josh Allen MVP. Just all the signals are there. We're probably at the top of the market on the Bills right now, who recently laid this a shorter price on the road against Joe Flacco and the Colts. I have the Rams power rated a couple points ahead of the Colts, who also had a hurt offensive line. It's just not a great spot, too, on the surface. You just beat the Chiefs, then you blew out the 49ers on Sunday night, and now you're going across the country after clinching the division. I think the earliest team to clinch a division in 15 years. going across the country for a non-conference game against the Rams team playing for their season. You lose this game and the Seahawks win, might be it. This game is massive for the Rams. So I think you get a max effort here. Like some matchup things too. Bills very zone heavy defense that actually against the pass has been below average if you remove turnovers. I'll get to that in a second. That's good for this Rams offense. You want Stafford with the healthy receivers going against the zone. Numbers when this offense is fully healthy over the past 2 seasons, significantly better. I think this year he's completing like 20% more of his passes against zone than man. And you know, he's just going to be able to find his receivers, going to be able to find the holes in the zone. I think the offensive line also is going to trend up the rest of this season. They've been pretty much like adding a guy back each week for the past like 4 weeks, and they're now up to close to full strength. So I think like that continuity, we'll start to see it. They've also figured out their red zone issues over the past month. They've been much better in that department. I think 72-ish% in touchdown scoring percentage inside the 20. Rams defense, it's not great, but they can get some pressure. More importantly, they're zone heavy also. Need to be against Allen, who is just torches man, can run against man. 17 of his 20 touchdowns are against man this year. He also probably has a turnover or 2 coming this year, sometime soon. I mean, last year he was 6% big time throw rate, 3% turnover worthy play rate. He had 33 touchdowns, 18 interceptions. This year, 6% big time throw rate, 3% turnover worthy play rate, 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So he's been getting away with a couple of throws. The reason I bring that up, and the Bills defense, if you remove turnovers, the Bills are plus 17 in turnover margin of the year. That's number 1 in the league. They're also they've converted 86% of their 4th downs. Their opponents are 10 of 24 on 4th downs, 41%. Their 4th down percentage, number 1 in the league. You would expect them with Allen in that run game to be really good. But, I mean, teams are just 41% on 4th downs against them. Potential regression there as well. And the Bills have just benefited from playing some teams with injuries over the past month. I mean, you go back to that San Francisco game. Team was decimated, had no chance outdoors with Purdy as well. Stafford's ankle, a bit of a concern, but reading tea leaves, I think he'll be okay. And it's not like I need his mobility. So I think that he'll be able to sit back in the pocket, move the short passes, runs, can move the ball efficiently, similar to what he did against the Vikings in another good spot earlier this year. And it's not like the Bills blitz a ton. And if you remove turnovers, like the Bills defense against the pass is like 20th EPA success rate. It's gettable. So I like the Rams. It's a good spot. I like some of the matchup advantages on both sides. And I'm looking forward to watching this chess match between McDermott and McVay. They've met 2 prior times. One was with Goff. It was like 2020. The Rams were down by like 20, came back. It was like 34-37. It was a wild game.
I remember that game. Yeah, it was like a high-scoring game. Yeah. And then there's another one like on the season opener, I think.
Season opener, Bills blew them out. The Rams were trying like a bunch of new offensive linemen after winning the Super Bowl. And it was a disastrous performance by their offensive line. But yeah, I think that this line is inflated. We're at the top of the market on the Bills here. It's not a great spot. And I think the Rams have some matchup advantages here, even though the Bills might be getting healthier, right? You might be getting a couple of their key pieces back. I just think this number is a bit too high given the spot.
Yeah, it's tough for me to cap the Bills because I just feel like it's like they're the new Lions. It's like, when do you fade them? Like they just it's getting tougher to fade them. That Stafford ankle thing is just mysterious. I mean, this year I feel like has just been the most mysterious injury year. So I would like to make sure he's good to go. But I do agree that the spot is, it is a letdown spot going across the country for the Bills after clinching. So we'll see. But I think McVay will probably run the ball a ton. That's in the second half against the Saints. That's what they did. They was like, you know what? I'm just gonna run over and over again. Apparently, he told this team that at halftime. So I could see them trying to do something similar against the Bills, because I think you keep it on the ground, shorten the game, and their run defense has been vulnerable at times as well. So I think this probably could be another one of those long drive under games too. All right. For my second pick and the third overall of the Week 14 Sunday six pack, going with the Las Vegas Raiders plus 6.5 at Tampa Bay. This is an ugly one, but I mean that's what we've been doing all year here on this pod. And I think the rate, yeah, right, yeah, exactly. I think the Raiders, they are going across the country here, but long rest. They played on Black Friday. They are getting healthier. Remember, they were just completely injury ravaged throughout the entire middle part of the season, even coming off their bye. They were banged up. So they about the healthiest they've been all year now. And you have a Tampa Bay team that's coming off an overtime game where their offense played 80 snaps and their defense played 70 snaps. And the reason I bring up their offense playing 80 snaps is because their two most important offensive players got banged up in that game. Bucky Irving with a hip, and Baker Mayfield, had to come out of the game at one point for a few plays. So I don't know if he's 100%. He sure didn't look it in that game. And he started kind of reverting back a little bit to the old Baker, some turnovers and just questionable throws and things like that.
Although he cannot do anything against that Ibero defense. If you look at his numbers over the past years, it's been horrifying. But Irving too. Irving could barely walk. I know he says he feels better, but he was going into the locker room after the game. He was add salt to my wound. I have Chargers under 9. They somehow win that game. I have Bucks under. They somehow win that game on the fumble and missed field goal. And what was another one?
Panthers over.
And Panthers over.
Yeah, I was pissed at that. I was like, we can still get here.
Unbelievable. And then they fumble and
Chuba of all people too. Yeah, that was rough. Pretty rough. But I think the Bucks are a little bit vulnerable right now. We were doing this on Wednesday, so I'm just trying to get ahead of potential injury news for the Bucks, because anything less than 100%, I think from those two guys is important. I mean, Bucky Irving got 28 touches in that game. He's kind of taken over their rush offense. And the Raiders, the one thing, since the bye, they've been doing well, a lot better, is play run defense. They've allowed 208 yards on 64 carries since the bye in 3 games. They're second in rush EPA over that span. Tampa Bay first, but the Raiders run game doesn't matter. Like we know they're not going to run the ball regardless. Although the kid McCormick looks a little better than what they've had. But you also have Aiden O'Connell, who I think is at this point better for the Raiders offense than Minshew. I know Minshew won the job out of camp, but it just seems to work better. Everything seems to work better with O'Connell in there. He can hit Trey Tucker down the field. He has a really good connection there, which you don't really see as much of with Minshew. So you get more of the explosive element. Bowers is going to ball regardless. Myers is healthy. And if you look at O'Connell's history, I was actually surprised to see this too, but he's 9-3-1 against the spread, 75%, covering by an average of 7.1 points per game. On the road, 5-1 against the spread, covering by 6.3 points per game. So I think the Raiders can hang in there. I think they're going to be able to score here. And their defense, getting a little better against the run. They might be able to get just enough stops, or just get in the back door with O'Connell doing some stuff down the field. But they outgained the Chiefs 434 to 329. And even in that loss to Denver, they outgained the Broncos 369 to 325. So Raiders slightly trending up to just a bad team instead of that completely horrible team that they were when they were, just all banged up middle of the season. And they got the new offensive coordinator as well. So I think that plus O'Connell, I think this team's a little bit underrated in the market here, like the spot, even though it's on the road. So give me Raiders plus 6.5.
Yeah, O'Connell looked really comfortable. I don't think it was all O'Connell because I do think there's been a big upgrade in play calling and play
Hmm.
construction, all of that. But he did look very comfortable against the blitz, and against the complex defense. And Bucky Irving, yeah, if he's not 100%, that's huge. I mean, he's second in the NFL in yak per attempt.
Hmm.
He has the highest receiving grade of any running back in the league. He also has 256 yards rushing when contacted at or behind the line of scrimmage. You know, the only player who has more? Barkley, 257. Irving has 40 fewer attempts.
Yeah.
So, I
It's a
mean,
huge difference in efficiency between him and Rashad White.
yeah, it's massive. So yeah, I don't love Baker as a favorite. I think this Bucks team's a fraud overall. It's funny because I took the Bucks under, and one of the things I said is there's a couple interesting young pieces that could raise this team's ceiling, and like Tyke Smith and Bucky Irving, and Irving's exceeded my wildest expectations, and I thought that he was underdrafted for where he went, but he's been a revelation. So if he's not fully healthy, I think that's major. The only thing that I worry about here, because yeah, I show value in this number. You can get like a juice 7 out there too. Is that like the Raiders? Do they just come out flat? They should have won that Chiefs game. Your season's over. Like you're playing the Bucks on the road. It's a non-divisional, non-conference game. It's like, are they just a little deflated after that Chiefs game? That's my only concern. But
It's possible. I
otherwise,
mean,
I
the
like it.
good thing is you have O'Connell, who's just making his second start, and he had a really good first one. So I mean, he's probably, if the quarterback is into it, which I think he will be. You hope that the rest of the team is there, but yeah, I
And they
mean,
can
Pierce.
pressure Mayfield. They're like number 1 in pass block win rate, and you have to be able to get to Mayfield.
Yeah. All right, where you going next?
And the Bucks, yeah, I don't think this is sitting at 7 if the Bucks should have lost last week. All right, for my second pick and the 4th overall of the Week 14 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs -4 at home against the Los Angeles Chargers. I can't believe I'm betting the Chiefs as a favorite, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I think that there's finally value on the Chiefs, and we've reached the bottom of the market on them. They haven't covered, 6 straight, and they can't cover as a favorite, but I think this sets up as a really good spot to do so for a number of reasons. I love this bet this weekend. Number one, it's a tough situational spot for the Chargers. It was last week too, short week going on the road across the country, multiple time zones. Then yeah, I know they covered and won by 4. They did nothing. They did literally nothing. They just had Cousins throw them the ball. I don't know what Cousins was doing the whole game. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't pass protect. They couldn't throw the ball. Lad McConkey had basically all of their yards, and he's hurt. Uh, so like the Chargers were horrendous last week. Now you're going again on the road for your second straight game, more travel, and you're playing a Chiefs team coming off extended rest. So just number 1 spot, pretty good. I also think the Chargers are just overvalued in the market right now. Yeah, I know they're 8-4, but I mean, who have they beat? They have one win over a team with a winning record. Is that the Broncos, I think, on the year? Had a ridiculously easy schedule. If you look at our luck rankings, they've been just as lucky as the Chiefs. The Chiefs have been lucky. I mean, they're winning games on the most absurd ways you could, like block field goals, illegal shifts,
Yeah.
You name it. But the Chargers have been just as lucky. I mean, last week was the luckiest win of any team has had in the NFL in 3 seasons by post-game win expectancy against the Falcons. And they have played just one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. The Chiefs were laying 7 in LA earlier this year and won by 7, which they should have. It's pretty fair result. Now, there's a lot of things I also like besides the spot and the price. Chargers zone heavy D, bad against power running backs. Pacheco back, Mahomes rips apart zones. And the Chargers aren't elite at generating pressure. Chargers defense still dealing with some injuries as well. I also think the Chiefs offense is trending up. Not only do you get Pacheco back, Mahomes' surface stats have improved since they got Hopkins. His 70% completion percentage, 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. But I expect DJ Humphries to start at left tackle. and that's massive. Their left tackle has been an absolute turnstile. It's ruined multiple drives. That's why Mahomes' pressure to sack ratio has skyrocketed. Reports are good on Humphreys. And I mean, things got so bad. You're kicking your guard out to left tackle in the middle of the game last week. It's been horrendous. So I expect Humphreys to go based on the comments that I heard today and coming out of the Chiefs camp. That's massive. Other side of the ball. So I think it's a good matchup for the Chiefs offense. If that left tackle situation is resolved, then you have Pacheco back. I think they can run. I think they can short pass all the way down the field against the Chargers. Be lots of third down conversions as usual. Other side of the ball. How are the Chargers moving the ball? I don't know. They can't run it. It's no Dobbins. Saw what happened last week against a bad Falcons run D. Couldn't run the ball. And how are they moving the ball through the air last week or recently? You have to throw it to Lad McConkey. That's basically their offense of late. And, I mean, last week, they ran the ball 17 times for 56 yards against the Falcons without Dobbins. We saw without Dobbins what happened against the Ravens to their rush offense. Last week, McConkey had 9 for 117. The rest of the team had 33 yards receiving. Their receivers stink against man. What are they going to get here? Man. I don't think McConkey plays. If he does, he's not going to be 100%. Who's getting open against man coverage on the Chargers? Nobody. And you look at Herbert's numbers. When throwing to McConkey, you're talking north of a 50% success rate. His success rate when throwing to anyone else drops by 12%. Bottom feeder levels. And when you look at Herbert's numbers against man this year, bad. Horrible. And his only man beater is McConkey. Quentin Johnson drops everything. Joshua Palmer, is he getting separation?
Wind sprints.
No.
Just running wind sprints out there.
Of course, he caught the 2-point conversion for me against me, but thanks, Josh. So, I don't know how they're moving the ball. Chiefs also get some pressure up the middle, which is where I think you have to get pressure against the Chargers with Chris Jones. So I think this is a good matchup, and I think it's the bottom of the market on the Chiefs as a favorite. I don't need them to win by a ton of margin here. I say that they're going to win by a field goal. I shouldn't throw that out there. But the Chargers without Dobbins in a bad spot and potentially without McConkey or a limited McConkey, I don't see it. I can't get to this number. I think the biggest thing here, which I think can make a world of a difference, is Humphreys at left tackle. The left tackle situation, you just watch it. The Chiefs can't operate their offense. And if that gets better and you give Mahomes time to scramble and find holes in the Charger zone, he's going to do it. And they're going to convert third downs. The Chargers are not going to be able to. And I think that the Chiefs finally get some margin on a team here in a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, you would think the Chargers got exposed last week. That game, I mean, that was, it probably goes, over a lot of people's heads because they won, no one's just digging real deep into Chargers Falcons week 13. But yeah, they couldn't. I mean, Gus Edwards, I was very kind of mystified when they were going to kind of rely on him as their lead back, even to open the year. And then they were like, and then they kind of switched to Dobbins and it worked out, but he's not playing well. Their run game is so bad that they're using Hassan Haskins as like a short yardage power back. They were throwing to their 300-pound fullback. I mean, they don't really have the answers anymore. So yeah, this Charger offense is just, I mean, it got exposed last week. It should get exposed this week. Hopefully there's just no ridiculousness, because the Chiefs, like you said, they always found a way to make these games close. Probably shouldn't even been close against the Raiders, but I do think the Chargers are overvalued in the market.
One drive last week over 45 yards. Their drives in the second half against not a good Falcons day. 4 plays, 11 yards. 3 plays, 3 yards. 4 plays, 9 yards. 4 plays, 17 yards. 1 first down.
And they gave up 5 sacks to the
5 sacks
Falcons.
against the
To the
team that can't get
Falcons.
any pressure.
Yeah. That was probably the most concerning thing. It was like, where did that come from? How did you awaken the it's like coverage sacks? No one's open.
I
right.
still can't get over the Cousins throw at the end.
Oh man, yeah. I
They
was
would have
like,
kicked a field goal.
what?
They would have just kicked the field goal if he didn't do that to cut it to 1.
I mean,
And
they were trying. And what's crazy is they were playing the same coverage all game, just trying to bait him. Like I was literally watching that corner just like break on the ball, and like Cousins like had like 5 incompletions or whatever where he just didn't. I guess he didn't notice it, and then it's like on the 6th one, he just gets pick 6. It's like,
is Cousins hurt?
I mean, he came in the year with an Achilles, and he's old.
I know, but like that performance
maybe
was, I can't explain some of the throws that he made. Like I assumed, I said, oh my God, I'm going to cover, because you're running down and you're throwing it into the end zone nonchalantly, right? Someone has to be open, like wide open. And it was, and then that late throw, there was on the 4th down, there was a pick 6. I mean, all right, we'll talk about the Falcons later. Where you going?
Yeah, I got some more on the Falcons later. But for my 3rd pick and the 5th overall of the week 14 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Chicago Bears +4 at the San Francisco 49ers. And I like the Bears. No Eberflus, Thomas Brown running the offense. Caleb Williams playing a lot better since Brown took over for Waldron, since they got Waldron out of here. So when they I've said this all year with the Bears, like they have talent. The real issue with the Bears is their coaching staff. Like they have a lot of talent, in my opinion. So I like this spot with the Niners not at 100% and the Bears, kind of addition by subtraction, Eberflus, Waldron a couple weeks before that. Williams is completing 67% of his passes for 7.1 yards an attempt in the 3 games under Brown, compared to 59.5% of his passes for 6.1 yards an attempt in all of the games with Shane Waldron. He threw for 340, 2 touchdowns, no picks against Minnesota. That's the number 2 defense in terms of pass DVOA. And then he threw for 3 touchdowns, no picks, and 256 against Detroit, which was the number 1. San Francisco's defense. Now we know Warner's not even healthy. I mean, and it kind of shows the last couple of games had a 33% missed tackle rate, which is 3 times his career average.
Reception, when he's been targeted,
to tight ends,
astronomical. Yeah. And I was like, what is going on here? Now it makes sense. He's got a spur.
Yeah, so he's, I think they're gonna still. I do think the Niners are still going for the division, so I don't think they're gonna give a poor effort or anything like that. But you got Warner, not healthy. He's not the most important player on your defense, definitely the second most important, because the most important is Bosa. Hip and oblique injuries, didn't practice all of last week, wasn't even close to playing. Lenore, your slot corner, didn't practice all last week, wasn't close to playing. And then flip it over, Trent Williams.
They say he's not healing right. That's not great.
Yeah, I mean, and thoughts go out to him and his family. They're dealing with some tragedy as well. So who knows if he's even if he's healthy, are they going to push him this week? But yeah, he wasn't even close. Didn't practice all week last week. Their offense falls off a cliff without Trent Williams. Their yards per carry, everything. So Chicago's 10th in pass DVOA, number 1 on 3rd down.
Too. Huh? They don't have any backs left either.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get so they're not. First, let me talk about their pass. So they're number 10 in pass defense. That's their strength. They're number 1 on 3rd down. They're number 3 in red zone, and their pass defense is probably still underrated because they have that Hail Mary going against their stats and whatnot. But their weakness is run defense. But like you alluded to, this is the weakest San Francisco's run game has ever been. You lost McCaffrey, you lost Jordan Mason, and Trent Williams. If he goes, he's not going to be close to 100%, but it doesn't even look like he's going to go at all. And then to top it all off, there's also a chance that Brock Purdy, how healthy is he? I mean, he had that shoulder injury that he couldn't make a start 2 weeks ago. He comes back and throws for 94 yards. I know it was the snow, but now you're looking at his last 2 games. So Brock Purdy, has thrown for 253 yards combined in his last 2 games on 46 attempts. That is 5.5 yards an attempt for a dude that was essentially the all-time leader in yards per attempt, like, hovering around 9 for his career. So is he even 100% healthy? We don't know. Everyone just assumes it was the snow. But I mean, when you have remember Deshaun Watson when he had that shoulder issue popped up? Never was the same. Cam Newton, you never know with these things. So I don't know where the health of the San Francisco offense is, but I think Chicago is underrated just because you look at their offense, Caleb Williams playing well. You got receivers. The one thing I'm worried about is their tackle, Wright, left that game on Thanksgiving. So
what about Allen though too? I think he matters to Caleb.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's as seriously hurt. I haven't seen. I think Wright is the bigger issue, but I mean, even in that game, they still moved the ball.
I mean, Allen didn't practice today. That's why I said it because of that ankle. But it's Wednesday. But so I was just asking how. I mean, Moore didn't practice either with his quad. So
that's maintenance though.
Yeah, I think Allen does have a risk of missing though.
I mean, that's fair. That is fair.
I think he makes a difference.
He does.
But if the 49ers have all of these injuries, especially Trent Williams, who I think is leaning towards no, then because that's where the 49ers have an advantage in this game is running the ball. I mean, and because the Bears' run D has been bad since they lost Billings. And I don't know if they're going to be able to do that here. That's a tough game, though. I mean, there's a lot of different angles here.
49ers on a short week, though. Short week.
I know. It's
injured, and the Bears on long rest. So, I mean, yes, the Bears have some key injuries, but they also have the longest possible rest to get them healthy.
Yeah, but then the Bears, they just lost 3 heartbreaking division games, but then you got a new coach, right?
Yeah, so, this is a get-up spot.
And then to the 49ers, this on paper, this is this the bottom of the market on them, all in effort for the season, but do they even have the horses? So yeah, I mean, I can't blame you for taking the points. There's just a lot at play here. I feel bad for the 49ers, especially things that are bigger than football with Ward and Williams.
Yeah, man, I can't believe that. That is horrible.
And then all the injuries they dealt with, it's just been a long year for the 49ers. But I don't blame you for taking the points. All right, for my third pick and the 6th overall, the Week 14 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the New York. We claim to play football Giants. Plus, what do we got out here?
5.
Plus 5
coming
at
down
home against the Saints. I think this thing will close 3.5. Could be wrong, but that's where I think it's headed. I didn't love a third bet that hadn't already been drafted. Giants were on my radar, but I needed Locke to be ruled in. And I would refuse to play DeVito. And then they said Locke's going to start around noon, which was nice. And then I bet the Giants. So here we are. Who are the Saints to be laying 5 on the road against anybody?
The opponent of the Giants. That's who they are.
No.
I don't know. I don't get it. Every week I see sharp action on the Giants. It's I just think this team is tanking and they're not trying to win, and I just don't think they care. But I mean, I watched them against
the Cowboys. They cared. They were trying. I also think Locke is a big upgrade over DeVito. I think DeVito is literally unplayable. And Locke will, they have extra rest and prep here. Locke will actually know he's starting. He found out he was starting the day before. So I think getting reps with the first team offense is, over a week and a half after already having some game action will be important. Plus, some Saints going on the road, dome team outdoors in December, Giants extra rest prep. Locke's going to start. He already has a game under his belt. What do the Saints do well? They don't have Taysom Hill anymore. There's nothing that they can do.
Throw a touchdown. Derek Carr throwing deep balls.
This is the Giants. Dexter Lawrence hurts losing him. they could still get some edge pressure, which will help limit what Carr can do. But losing Taysom Hill is just huge. And their receivers, like the Giants' corners, are terrible. They can actually hang with these Saints receivers. And I think that the Giants can lean on their run game here. The Saints' run D is horrendous. Their 31st rush success rate. The secondary is bad due to injuries and trading Lattimore. They also don't get pressure. That's huge for any Giants quarterback. But I think they can just lean on Tracy here. And I just cannot get to this number for this bad Saints team that basically had their season end last year, dropping to 4-8 last week, dropping to 4-8. And the Giants, look, they haven't been great, but they're scoring touchdowns in the red zone, even though they can. Tracy's pretty good. 42% of their trips, that's dead last. They've gone 11 straight games without an interception. That's an NFL record. They have one on the year. They've been extremely unlucky in the turnover department, especially on defense. One of these tip balls of pass defense is going to end up intercepted eventually. It's been 11 games
You can
without
tell
an
yourself
interception.
that.
They've also lost 6 one-possession games, 7 if you count the Cincy game. So they've been competitive. And I can't get here with this Saints team laying 5 on the road. No Taysom Hill takes away a lot of the flexibility that they have, which they needed because they don't have any receivers. And their offensive line is still bad. I think they can pressure Carr. And I think the Giants can lean on the run game here. And this will be a lower scoring game where I'm getting the Giants at a premium because no one wants to bet them. And yeah, I like Locke a lot more than DeVito. I like how he used his legs last week, but I just think getting more reps and against the defense, unlike the Cowboys that can't really get pressure. And I actually would take the Cowboys secondary in the form that it was last time than I would over this Saints secondary as it's currently constructed. So yeah, give me the Giants at home catching 5 against whatever the Saints team is.
I worry about this one, man. First of all, Lawrence is massive because the Saints are they look like they're getting McCoy back, and so like their offensive line shouldn't be bad anymore. Like guys are playing well, but the Giants are also dead last in deep pass DVOA, and that's the one thing Derek Carr has been good at, and MVS, their one receiver, has been good at. The Giants' run defense is also going to be horrible, just like worse than the Saints now because you have no Lawrence in the middle. They're already a bottom 5 run D. So I think Kamara is still going to be able to run.
Yeah, but there's no Taysom Hill though, which makes it a lot easier to defend.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but it's Alvin Kamara is still not bad. Like I just think I would need like a 7.5. Like I just think like there's little things that I see with this Giant team. Like for example, Darius Slayton didn't play much of the second half 2 weeks ago. Hyatt played a bunch of snaps, and then the next week, it looked like it went back to normal, but it really didn't. It was like a 70-30 where it's usually like a 95-5 split. So like they're playing players who aren't as good now. Like they're at that point in the year. And I think the Saints, they're 2 games back of the division. Like the Falcons are cratering and the Bucks are the Bucks. So 4-8, 6-6, like they're still alive. So I don't trust the Giants here, man. Like they're gonna take money every week. I can't get. They're like the Panthers for me earlier in the year, where it's like I don't care what I make the number, I'm just not touching them. But
I mean, you say deep passes to MVS. I mean, he did that for
4 times in the last 3 weeks.
No, 2 games. Can we just look at the rest of his career when he was playing with way better quarterbacks? Last week against the Rams secondary, which isn't great, indoors, he had 2 catches for 36 yards. The leading receiver last week was Taysom Hill in the game against the Rams. I'm not banking on this explosive Saints passing attack, especially outdoors. You're not even in a controlled environment anymore. I think this will be lower scoring. Giants will be able to move the ball on the ground and stay in it. And it's not DeVito.
I'd rather bet the Jets. That's how much I hate the Giants like right now. I just don't think that I think they're gonna find a way like to like not cover, but I'll root for you. The Giants are like my number one don't touch team right now. I haven't liked anything I've seen from them. But this is let's see our six pack. We got Aiden O'Connell, Drew Lock, Stafford, Mahomes. So yeah, you're surrounding Drew Lock with some all pro caliber talent here, and with Stafford and Mahomes, and then I got O'Connell, Winston, and Caleb Williams. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. That was our NFL Week 14 Sunday six pack. We got Stuckey as the Rams +5, Chiefs -4, Giants +5. I got the Browns +6.5, Raiders +6.5, Bears +4.